Okay, so welcome to this introduction on West Point Bridge Design. We're going to open up the program, second edition, not the one for older computers. We're going to get this, going to hit close, and then we're going to come up to this point. It's going to tell us what do we want to do. It's going to ask us. We're going to create a new bridge, and the design requirements, you can take a moment to read those. You do not want to enter a contest. And we're on number 3 here. It's going to ask us a couple different questions. What do we want to do? Do we want to change the deck elevation? For what we're doing, we're always going to leave this at 24. The abutments as the port configuration may change. Refer to the sheet for that. No pier, 2 piers, or 2 spans, I mean. So just refer to the sheet of what you should be clicking on here. But for the first one, we're going to leave everything the way it is. Hit next. Medium strength, standard truckload. Number 4 never changes. And we're going to do the first one, which is the through truss, the house style. Okay, and if you click on these, you can see that they change. The picture in the center here will change depending on what you click. Okay, so we're going to do the first one. I'm going to do next. Design by. And put your name in there. Click next. It's going to tell you what to do, and I'm going to walk you through that as well. Hit finish. Okay, so in the upper left hand corner here, these are your tools. You've got your joints, and you've got your members, you've got your selection tool, and you've got your erase tool. The joints are just what they sound like. These circles here go where these circles are here. Here's the funny part. These ones you don't have to put in. They're already there for you, but these ones are not. So what you want to do is select the circle tool, the joints, and just click over top, and it'll automatically snap to where it's supposed to be. Once you've done that, you can grab your member tool and then just hold left click, drag, release, left click, drag, release, and do that for the whole thing. You must connect each one of these individually. Okay, this takes a little bit of time, but you can do that. Okay, if you happen to make a mistake, like you do something like that, oh boy, I didn't want that, grab the little eraser and just click on it. Okay, and then, okay, so now we have our bridge. It is fully constructed. We're going to use a couple things up here. Remember, the whole point of West Point Bridge Design is to create a bridge for the lowest amount of money. So up here is our calculator. You can click on this if you want. We're not going to be using this, but it just kind of tells you, how they estimated that cost. If you want to, there's really no need to. But I do want you to keep in mind to just look at that, just so you know how much your cost is. So right now it's $345,868.07. All right. Up here we're going to have 2 different windows that we're going to use. This is our test window, so if I click on this, it's going to automatically test my bridge. All right, and you can see that these are colored. Okay, this is red, this is blue, and notice how this bent. Okay, that means that it failed. Here's our truck over here. Our truck is trying to make it all the way across, but obviously the bridge failed before the truck could ever get there, so it's not going to work. So we want to click back up here, see where it says, right next to the little blue window. Click here, and what it does is it gives us a couple different windows here. The first thing is, if you notice all the red, okay, the red is compression. And if you look over here on the right, the member list, everything that's listed in red here represents everything that's red here. And if I click on one of these, it automatically highlights it here. So this is number 8. Okay, it even says 8 right there. If I click on this one's blue, it highlights number 32, but look at, there's a different color for 32, it's blue, that is tension. Okay, so that's being pulled apart. The whole point of this is that you want to get one of these numbers, either compression or tension. Okay, you want to get one of these numbers. Okay, so this is number 1 here. You want to get one of these numbers as close to 1 as possible without going over. I'm going to say that again. As close to 1 as possible without going over. 0.99 is really good. If you can get it to 1.00, even better. It usually will not fail at 1.00, but I tell my students to aim for 0.99. It tends to work the best. So if I see a number that's, that's over 1, like this is, 1.06, that's why it failed. So every one that's highlighted in a certain color is going to be over 1. Every one that you see in here that is over 1 has failed. Alright, it tells us this. So here's what we have to do. We have to make this, all of these that are colored, we have to make them all stronger. By making them stronger, it'll support the bridge better. Here's the problem. When you make it stronger, you also make it cost more money. So here's our cost right here. So what I'm going to do is, and this is the biggest thing that you can do to help you speed up this process, is hold down the control key. I'm actually holding it down right now. And then I'm going to click on each one of the ones that failed. Okay, I'm clicking. Okay, so I clicked on all of them that failed. You can either click on the picture here of the bridge, or you can click over here. Okay, any way works. I'm going to release control, and then do we see these little boxes here? Okay, these boxes tell you what you're trying to do. This one is decrease, notice how it's small. This one is increase, you notice how it's a little bit larger. Okay, so what we want to do is, I want to increase the size a couple times. And if you look down here when I'm doing this, the ones that I've selected are actually physically getting larger. If I keep clicking it, they'll get much, much bigger. But look at my price now, I'm up to $1 million. Okay, yikes, that's a lot of money. I don't know if I want to have that much money. Or I don't know if I want it that high. So let me bring these down a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to put them back. We're at 425,000. And I don't know if this is going to work. So what do? I test it. Test my bridge. Okay, so it seems to work right now. Oh my god, it broke. Okay, that's not good. So we see that it broke. Let's go back up here. Okay, we're going back to our, this is called the design board. And look, now we've got one piece here that failed catastrophically. If we click on here, it's actually at 1.03, so it just failed. So let's click on that and make it a little bit larger. Okay, I just made it larger by clicking on this. Okay, watch it go across, and it worked. Cool. Awesome. So my bridge now works, but here's the thing. I'm at $427,000. The question is, can I make this bridge cheaper? And by cheaper, I mean, can I make some of these pieces smaller? They don't need to be this big. So one thing you can do is you can come over to the compression and the tension, and this is why you need to be able to use this right-hand column. And I can actually click on this, and it'll sort them by how much they're holding. So if I click over here, I can see that, these are all zeros. It's fine, but just because these are zeros doesn't mean that these are going to be zeros. Remember, one of these has to be as close to 1 as possible. So by making this piece, which is number 2, remember number 2, so I click on it here. By making number 2, if I make it a little bit smaller by clicking the decrease member size, I'm actually going to make it weaker, but I'm also going to make it cheaper. So watch, if I click this, my price goes down a little bit. Okay, if this one, same thing. If I click this one down, it's going to make it a little bit cheaper. Okay, my advice to you is that you click, you hold down Control, and that you just highlight, and I'm just dragging, just pull down all the ones that are really, really like not even close to 1. And by making them smaller, okay, so right now I'm just clicking, just highlighting. Okay, and these are 0.93, this one is 0.96, this one is 0.96, so I don't want to make those any smaller. So what I'm doing is I'm just highlighting these, and I'm just going to do decrease member size, and watch what happens to my cost. I went to 392. Okay, so I brought that down. But also what I did was I made them a little bit weaker, but I made them cheaper. Remember, you want to make them functional, but also as cheap as possible. So let's go over here and run the load test. Okay, and that seemed to work well. So let's go back here and see, once I run the load test, what it's going to do is it's going to give me my my forces here. It's going to tell me these forces won't change until you run the load test. So please run the load test first. Don't just change them and say, why didn't it tell me what my new compression force strength is or the tension is? It's because you didn't run the load test. Okay, so what I want to do is let's just click on a member here and take a look at it. So let's look at member number 1. Okay, that's the first one I drew over here. Remember, you can either click on the member list over here, or you can physically click on the member over here. This has a compression, it's under compression, okay, so it means it's being pushed together, of 0.48. There's no tension, nothing's pulling on it. So what I want to do is I want to make this weaker. By making it weaker, means making it smaller up here, I'm going to make it cheaper. So it's kind of hard to think about when you first look at it, but basically by making it smaller in size, it's going to make this number increase. And remember, I want these numbers to be as close to 1 as possible. So I'm going to click this down, okay, and notice how this all turns gray now, and I'm going to run my test. Alright, so I'm going to run my test. Alright, so I can see right here how that worked. Now let's look at member number 1 again. Oh, now look, it's at 0.69. So I made it smaller before, and now it's at 0.69. Let's make it smaller again. Let's bring it down by 2 more. Remember, every time I make it smaller, I make it cheaper. The point is to make the bridge as cheap as possible, but still functional. So let's run the load test. And you can tell when you're running it how dark of a color it turns. Like this is really red, so it failed. Wait, let's go back. Wow. Okay, so number 1 is at 1.08. So what I can do is, since it's already selected for me because it's the last one that I worked on, let's just make it 1 bigger. And yes, making it bigger does cost more money, but I still need the bridge to be functional. So let's run the load test again. And it works. So I now know that number 1 is now at 0.85, and that's about as thin as I can make that. Here's the way West Point bridge design works though. Your bridge, your entire bridge, is affected by the other pieces. So if you make something else smaller or larger, it will affect the rest of the bridge. That's what makes this a challenge. My advice is that you figure out which ones are very low in number, meaning that they're too strong, and that you make them weaker, thereby making them cheaper. The point is to make the cheapest possible bridge that can still get the truck across. Okay? And that concludes this tutorial of West Point bridge design.